Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Let's Learn with Lizzie, a go-to place where English is made simple and easy. Today we are going to see a lesson, the Sermon at Benares, which is not just a simple story. It is a philosophical and moral lesson that explains how human beings should deal with suffering, death, and grief. The story evolves around a woman named Kisa Gotami and the first sermon of Gautam Buddha. The central idea we must understand for the exam is that suffering is universal and acceptance brings peace. Remember, this chapter teaches emotional intelligence and wisdom. Gautam Buddha was born as Prince Siddhartha Gautama in a royal family. He lived a life full of comfort and luxury and was protected from pain and sorrows. However, one day he saw four sights: a sick man, an old man, a dead body, a monk begging for alms. These sights made him realize that no human being can escape suffering and death. This realization changed his life completely and made him leave his palace in search of truth. After leaving his palace, Siddhartha meditated for many years. Finally, he attained enlightenment under a peepal tree, which later came to be known as the Bodhi tree. After enlightenment, he was called Buddha, which means the enlightened one. His mission now was to teach people how to overcome sufferings. Buddha delivered his first sermon at Benares, one of the holiest cities on the banks of the river Ganga. This sermon focused on the reality of death, the suffering of human life, the need for acceptance. The story of Kisa Gotami is used to explain these ideas in a simple yet powerful way. Kisa Gotami was a very poor woman who had only one son. When her son died suddenly, she was unable to accept the truth. Her grief was so intense that she lost her mental balance. She believed that her son could still be cured. She represents human attachment and emotional weakness. In her madness of grief, Kisa went from house to house, begging for medicine for her dead child. People pitied her, but told her that the boy was dead. However, she refused to believe them. This shows the denial stage of grief where a person refuses to accept the reality. Finally, Kisa Gotami was directed to the Buddha. She begged him to cure her son. Instead of directly telling her the truth, the Buddha asked her to bring a handful of mustard seeds from a house where no one had ever died. This shows Buddha's wisdom and compassion. He wanted her to learn the truth on her own. Buddha teaches through experience, not force. Kisa Gotami again went from home to home. Everyone was ready to give mustard seeds, but every family had lost someone. People said, "The living are few, the dead are many." This made her realize that death is common to all. Her suffering was not unique. Tired and hopeless, Kisa Gotami sat by the roadside and watched the city lights flicker and go out. She compared the lights to human life, bright for a while and then extinguished forever. This moment gave her true understanding. She realized that death is natural and unavoidable. At this stage of story, Kisa Gotami reaches to the most important turning point of her life. After visiting every house and realizing that death has touched every family, she finally understands the truth that she could not accept earlier. She realizes that her sorrows, though painful, is not unique. Every human being must face loss at some point in life. This realization makes her reflect deeply, and she admits to herself that she had been selfish in her grief. Here, selfishness does not mean cruelty or lack of love. Instead, it means that she was so absorbed in her personal suffering that she forgot the universal nature of death. She believed her pain was greater than anyone else's. Once she understands this truth, her grief begins to fade, not because she stops loving her son, but because she accepts the reality. Acceptance, according to Buddha, is the first step towards peace. When asked how did Kisa Gautami's attitude change, kindly write that Kisa Gautami moved from denial to acceptance after realizing that the death is universal and unavoidable. After Kisa Gotami's realization, the Buddha explains the philosophy of life and death clearly. He says that the human life is short, troubled, and filled with pain, and it's temporary. There is no escape from death. Once a person is born, death becomes certain. This is not a punishment, but a natural law. Buddha emphasizes that death does not discriminate, it affects the young and the old, the wise and the foolish, the rich and the poor. By saying this, the Buddha removes the illusion that suffering is selective. Everyone is equal in the eyes of death. Use phrases like inevitability of death and universal law of life in your answers to add standard to your answer. To make his teachings simple and memorable, Buddha uses powerful similes in his sermon. The first one is ripe fruits. Just as ripe fruits are always in danger of falling, human beings are always in danger of death. Life can end at any moment. Then, earthen pots made by a potter. No matter how carefully a pot is made, it will eventually break one day. Similarly, the human body, though strong, is fragile and temporary. And finally, ox led to slaughter. Just as an ox cannot escape its fate, human beings cannot escape death. These similes help us understand that death is not sudden injustice, it is a natural ending. Quoting one simile can fetch extra marks in the literature answers. The Buddha now focuses on how human beings respond to death. He clearly states that crying, weeping, lamenting do not bring back the dead. Instead, excessive grief increases mental suffering, weakens the body, and disturbs peace of mind. Buddha does not say that grief is wrong. He says that uncontrolled grief is harmful. Wisdom lies in understanding that sorrow cannot change reality. Grief should be acknowledged, not allowed to rule the mind. This is one of the most important philosophical ideas of the lesson. The Buddha compares grief to an arrow struck in the heart. This arrow represents lamentation, complaint, excessive sorrow. As long as the arrow remains, the person continues to suffer. Crying and complaining only pushing the arrow further deeper more into the heart. The only solution is to remove the arrow, which means accepting death, letting go of sorrow, gaining emotional balance. Once the arrow is removed, the person becomes calm, composed, and peaceful. He who has drawn out the arrow of grief will obtain peace of mind, is a beautiful quote used in the chapter. Now, moving on to the themes of the lesson. The lesson explores several deep themes. First one is the universality of death. No one can escape death. Human sufferings, pain is a part of life, and acceptance brings peace. Detachment reduces sorrow. Wisdom over emotion helps overcome grief. These themes make the story timeless and relevant even today. The central message of the story is that death is inevitable. No one can avoid it. Grief is natural and acceptance is necessary for peace. The Buddha teaches us not to deny sorrow, but to understand it wisely. When we realize that suffering is shared by all humanity, our personal pain becomes lighter. The title, The Sermon at Benares, is highly appropriate because the entire lesson is based on Buddha's sermon. The sermon was delivered at Benares. It explains eternal truths about life and death. Thus, the title captures both the setting and the central idea of the lesson. Students must be well prepared to answer questions like how Kisa Gotami realized the truth, why Buddha asked for mustard seeds, meaning of selfish in her grief, Buddha's view on death and sorrows, and many more questions. Words like lamentation, desolation, mortals, inscrutable, sermon help improve comprehension, vocabulary, answers, writing quality. To conclude, the sermon at Benares teaches us how to face loss with wisdom and courage. Through the story of Kisa Gotami, the Buddha reminds us that acceptance, not denial, is the key to peace. This lesson teaches us not how to escape death, but how to live meaningfully despite it. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching the video. If you like this video, kindly hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And see you soon in the next video.